Hi, this is Matt Singer. I am the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and my guest today is McKenna Dempsey. She is the CEO and co-founder of Camber. Uh, McKenna, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, explain to people what Camber is exactly.
Yeah, so Camber is, we are focused on building mental health experiences that shift the perspective from I am broken to I am complex. Our focus is on teenagers, so we're currently building a mental health platform that provides education and resources for teens in the palm of their hand as a way to kind of navigate the things that they're going through on a day-to-day basis, whether that's depression, anxiety, mood instability, bipolar disorder, and a way to find techniques that help them live in the life that they want to be living. We're not trying to change them. We're not trying to tell them that there's anything wrong with them, but just give them tools to be who they are.
A little bit about the origins of this and sort of your involvement. Where did the ideas and concepts for this kind of generate from?
Yeah, so I've lived with anxiety and depression my entire life from when I can remember, and high school was a really challenging time for me. I had severe mood instability and was put on several medications that didn't quite fit well with my brain. And therapy, although it was a good idea at the time, and I'm a big proponent of therapy, I see a therapist every week, it wasn't something that I was ready for, and it wasn't something that I understood. And I had medication that I was put on that wasn't appropriate for my brain because I didn't really understand what was going on with me, and I couldn't explain that to those that were helping me. And it ended up causing kind of a psychotic break where I ended up spending some time in a inpatient psychiatric facility. And from there, it just like kind of sent me on this journey of like learning about who I am. And I say this all the time. People who have heard me speak before have heard me say this, but when I was 19, I asked my dad, why am I crazy? And he said, you're not crazy, you're just complex. And it completely changed how I think about mental health. And it's been me learning over the last 10 years about how do I think of my brain as being this complex feature about me where I can interact with the world in a different way, but it doesn't make me crazy and it doesn't make me broken. It's just learning how to find balance with how I work with it in order to love myself for who I am. And if I had that perspective and had those tools when I was younger, I think that it would have helped me navigate the challenges that I was facing on a daily basis. And so I want to give that opportunity to teens. I want them to have access to that mentality and then the tools that can help them enforce that mentality.
It's interesting. We've learned, I feel like society has made, fairly large leaps in terms of understanding mental health issues in the last decade or so. But it's interesting that there wasn't really, something like what you're trying to do with Camber before, at least as far as I know. Do you feel like technology has sort of lagged behind in terms of its use in treating mental health issues?
I do. I feel like we're getting there. I really feel like it's lagged behind when it comes to adolescence specifically. And I think that there are a lot of really good mental health apps out there, but I think either they can be too complex, like too in the weeds of what's going on, or like almost too fluffy. And meditation is really helpful, but meditation is not the gateway for a lot of people. It certainly was not and continues not to be for I'm learning how to meditate every day. I have meditation apps, Hum, shout out from Pi. But it's not, it wasn't how I got into understanding my mental health. Because sometimes our brains just aren't wired in that way, and it can make it a lot more challenging. It took me getting a therapist that actually understood that to be like, oh, it's okay if like meditation isn't the entry point for me. But I feel like, and especially for teens, I think that there's a lot of really good programs, like in-person programs that exist, but I don't think they know how to get there. I think there's still, as much as the stigma is shifting and starting to fall away. I think it's still there from some of the teens that I've talked to. There's a lot of fear about opening up to friends and a lot of need for being able to connect with friends and hear other people's stories.
Talk a little bit about how this pandemic is affecting mental health, maybe particularly with teens.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you don't have the option to be able to get out and see your friends and do the things that make you feel whole, it can put you in this place of questioning things about yourself. And when you're coming up against challenges, whether those are like challenges within your family or challenges within yourself, and you have no outlet. And I think people are learning what their outlets are a lot right now. But if you're a high anxiety extrovert, I honestly can't imagine what that's like right now. I'm a high anxiety introvert, so being home it is somewhere that I like feel safe and I feel recharged. But I think that the people who are learning like, oh wait, I feel fueled by being around my friends, and then not having access to that. That being said, I think that our access to technology is really powerful right now, and being able to have video conversations with people that we love. And I think that if we take this time to try to find ways that we can balance and love ourselves through the mental health challenges that we're facing, that ultimately we're going to come out of it understanding ourselves better.
Have you learned anything about yourself that you didn't already know during this period?
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself during this period. Probably the biggest thing that I've learned about myself is that I mentioned earlier that I have some challenges with letting go of control. But what that really is, I really want to be able to predict the future. So I try to figure out things so that I can predict the future, so that I can protect myself from emotional damage, or like protect my emotions from what might happen in the future. So having our entire world in a state of we have absolutely no idea what's happening, and like going from having summer plans to having everything is TBD or already canceled, it's really activating that part of me that wants to figure out and predict the future. So it's challenging me to take a step back and not do that. Or I guess recognize when I'm doing it and then say some nice things to myself to get through it.
Mm-hmm. How was your cat holding up with you being home all the time? On the background.
Yeah. She's a little crazy. I think she's confused. And she's confused as to why I'm here and not paying attention to her, I think is the biggest thing. So she's like, you're here, but you're on this computer. I don't know why you're on this computer. But I also heard that there's some reasoning behind why animals are acting weird during the quarantine. Apparently there's an article. I have not read it yet, but I hope there's an explanation. I hope she goes back to normal when we go back to normal life.